Hi, welcome. In this video, we're going to talk about the harp metaphor and why triggers are so good and so helpful for us. Okay, so first of all, a trigger would be when a trauma energy that has gotten trapped in our body from our life experiences or inherited gets touched on. It's called a trigger, and it comes to the surface and we feel all that's stored there. So say, for example, someone was bullied for chewing loudly or eating loudly as a kid, and that all that experience of being mocked or maybe harsh things said to them, if that experience and what that felt like for the person got stuck and just gets stored somewhere in their body, a little ball of it sitting somewhere in their body, and then 20 years later they are eating breakfast with their spouse or their family, and their spouse or their child says, "Wow, that's so loud." Like maybe they have a stuffy nose or something, and someone says, and they say like, "Wow, you're chewing so loud, what is going on?" All of that can come to the surface. They feel the emotions, they experience it as if they time traveled back to the moment when they were 8 years old and getting bullied for it, and they experience all of that live, of so rejected and sad and insecure and upset and angry and defensive. All of that gets triggered to the surface and comes up into their present moment experience loud, and it's going to be louder than what is called for in the present day experience. Your spouse or a child saying, "Wow, why are you chewing so loud?" Maybe that might be a little rude. Maybe they could say it in a kinder way, but regardless, even if they say it in a very, very gentle way, same thing. It can still trigger any trauma energy that's stored in our system on that topic. And then the person can feel angry, defensive, wall up, pull back, lash out in anger, act out their emotions in some way. Which is unideal, because then that leads to treating other people disrespectfully and causing trauma. So trauma begets trauma. Hurt people, which is why it's so valuable to heal ourselves. So say that person, they got bullied when they were 8 years old about chewing loudly. Their spouse or child says, "Why are you chewing so loud?" And they feel all of this come up, all this trauma energy, and they feel so mad and defensive. But they also see like, I can't yell at my 5-year-old child, they can see like, that's, boy, but I'm feeling so mad and defensive. And then they go take it out on, other drivers while they drive to work. They cut people off, they yell at them and gesture at them, or maybe they do yell at their 5-year-old child. But basically, trauma begets trauma. So we have the opportunity as the steward and owner of our own self to heal and clean out all of our trauma, so that we don't pass it along to other people. So we're a chain breaker, and we don't create more for ourselves and other people. So then wouldn't it be great if we could just find all of our little pieces of trauma in our body and just right now, just clear them out? And sometimes you can't clear out what you don't know, what you can't see, and so you need to be able to see it, which is why triggers are so amazing. Triggers are situations where it gets brought to the surface, just like that. Anytime that we have a experience inside ourselves, our internal experience does not match the outside. A 5-year-old saying, "Why are you chewing loud?" And we feel ready to beat someone up. That's not not an equal situation. So anytime we have that happen inside our internal environment, that is a trigger, and that's bringing it to the surface live, and we have the chance to see it. And if we take notes mentally, or even you can journal, if we take notes, we can hear and identify what it is. And the person, so if they go, "Whoa, I just got triggered," And if they could say, like, I'm going to excuse myself to go, like, identify, go observe, or like be aware, be mindful of that I'm triggered right now. And so they might say, like, oh, run to the bathroom, or they might just, like, I don't know, just leave the room and go off by themselves and notice, okay, how am I feeling? I'm feeling defensive. I'm feeling really angry. I feel like I'm ready to fight someone. I feel also really sad and ashamed. My heart is racing, or my stomach is dropped, and my whole body is getting weaker, and it's hard to have good posture. And they notice these things. You have a chance to like see it, and it's like right there, and it's way easier to see than when it's not triggered, when it's just in storage and is not currently a threat. So when it gets triggered and it's at the surface, it's like the easiest time to see it, which is awesome, which is a great opportunity. And also, while something is surfaced and live, it's also a really easy time to clear it too. So that is when you whip out EFT tapping. I'm like, okay, I don't even sometimes you will get clarity on like, oh yeah, I'm having memories of when so-and-so as a little kid would mock me. Or even if you don't get memories, you just have all these sensations come up, then it's like, okay, all right, well, this is obviously some type of trauma response because it's not appropriate for the situation. I see it, that it needs attention, otherwise I'm gonna feel this way for a while. So this is a great time to whip out EFT tapping and clear it all out. Clearing it all out, or scribbling, whatever you want to do, or command clearing, whatever you want to do, can clear it out. So if it was just sitting there unsurfaced, untriggered, then you still could clear it, but you'd have to search, you'd have to identify, like you'd have to ask, somehow get your body to identify this, which you could do if you remembered the memory of like, oh yeah, my neighbor friend used to mock me about how I chewed. And when I think about that memory, it hurts. So that's one way you can know if there's something there, is when you can think back on every memory in your life objectively, just like calmly, and it doesn't have a response inside of you, then it's good. But if it still has a burn, a sting, or some type of response, like there's still some trauma energy there. So if you just happen to remember or like think on that memory and think like, I am still mad at him, then you go like, oh, okay, there's some stuff here. Then you could do EFT tapping or scribbling with it unlive, like without it having gotten triggered. Okay, so coming back to triggers. So that's what a trigger is. It's when we identify, our system is experiencing that we have some trauma energy somewhere that just got brought to the surface via some type of situation. Okay, so now I love this metaphor of way of looking at triggers. Sometimes we blame people. We're like, hey, you 5-year-old son, you are in trouble because you made me feel mad and defensive and sad. Or you just aren't allowed, and no one in this house is allowed to talk about how people chew. Like, everyone must tiptoe around, I have a sensitivity around this. No. When we get triggered, it's ours. It's our responsibility. It's our situation. Even if how the trauma happened to us wasn't anything in our control, and we, had nothing to do with choosing into that, we are the only one who can heal it. And we are the one who's receiving data when we get triggered. We're being notified. So then we are in a situation where once we're triggered, we can go, hey, this is a really great time to clear it because it popped up live and I can see it really plainly and clearly. Okay, so I love this metaphor. I heard this from Holly Bueller. I like it a lot. So we imagine a music store, musical instrument store, a harp store. There's just lots of harps all around the room. And people come into a music store and they want to play the instruments to like hear how they sound, get familiar with them, see if they want to buy it. So naturally, that's how it is in a music store. People are going to play the instruments. So say that we are all harps in this music store. We've got all of our little harp strings, and they each play a different note. And say that some of the notes are out of tune because of some type of traumatic experience that happened, and it caused that note to go out of tune. And it even hurts when it gets plucked. So if someone comes along and they're running their hand along the harp, and it hits a note that hurts, and that's off tune because of trauma, it's not the person's fault. Like, they didn't necessarily even mean to or even know that would, that they would be hitting on a trigger. They could just have only positive intentions and say a word that happens to trigger someone, or act in a way that triggers someone that they weren't even meaning to. And so it's not the person's fault who was playing the harp, because this is a harp store. And the harp doesn't need to punish itself for having a string that's out of tune and that hurts when it gets plucked. But it is an opportunity for the harp to notice, oh, that string is out of tune. And I didn't know, I wouldn't have known unless someone played it, that I could identify that string is out of tune. Let me tend to that string and take care of it, get it back in tune. So that is what trigger is like. It's not other people's fault for triggering us. It's us, and it's the fact that we had a string that had trauma energy on it and was out of tune. That was the only reason it was triggering. If there wasn't any trauma energy there, it wouldn't have been triggering at all. But it's a gift to us, because then it gives us a chance to tend to any strings that are out of tune and get them back in tune so that we can play our beautiful music of who we are. All of our capacities and everything about us, like all of our attributes of who we are, can shine through by cleaning up any trauma off of our strings so that all of our strings can play the notes that they're built to. So it's a gift to get triggered, even though it's not necessarily a fun experience or easy experience, and the work of clearing out trauma and retuning a string isn't necessarily easy, but the fact that it's possible is a miracle, is wonderful. And so whenever life brings us triggers, we can say thank you. Thank you, I can see this more clearly now, and now is a great opportunity, now is the great time for me to tend to it and help clear out the trauma energy and bring in any new, healthier perspectives to get that string nice and tuned to its proper note. All right, thanks for joining me. If you have any other questions or would like more insights or help, you can always check out releaseandrisehealing.com. Have a great day.